I played Mark of the Deep because I needed a new Metroidvania game to get me through a pretty bare February month for the releases. And it became pretty immediately apparent to me that this doesn't really fall into the Metroidvania genre. It says that it has Metroidvania elements, although realistically I'm treating this like a top-down action RPG game. Still, after playing through the first hour and a half or so, there's some troubling signs, and I'm starting to put Mark the Deep in the maybe misses the mark kind of basket, which is a shame because there's definitely some design elements here that I enjoy. But at times when I'm playing through this game, it feels like it's a bit confused in terms of what it's actually trying to set out to achieve. So let's talk through some of the elements that I'm not enjoying, but it won't all be negative. There's definitely something to work at here from this newly released title. So Mark the Deep is an action-adventure style game that says that it has Souls-like elements, but realistically just has a lot of repetitive action fights. You play as Rookie, a pirate that has been sent into this cursed underworld style environment in which there's a bunch of your old crewmates who are missing, trapped, and waiting around to be saved, which is lucky because you've got the abilities and skills to do that. Whilst the game definitely has a high story element to it, it's one of those adventures that's designed for you to learn and unfold as you journey through, reading different scripture style stones and then learning about what's happening through your crewmates as you find them and rescue them. I guess the Metroidvania elements that they discussed in the description of the game comes down to the fact that as you get new items, you unlock new areas, but it's very linear. I haven't found a map yet, and that side of it's quite simplistic. So I feel like whether or not you're enjoying Mark the Deep will come down to one very simple mechanic. Do you enjoy the combat? And for me, no, I'm not enjoying the combat all that much. And it's so repetitive having multiple enemies spawning continuously. And whilst these enemies have simple animations and simple attacks, they require quite a few attacks from you to defeat, which means that you're heavily relying on your dodge, and you take damage just from sheer numbers of enemies, and make one mistake and there's a bit of your health gone. Some of the enemies seem to have mechanics that make them more challenging than they should be. A game like this would usually have some kind of attack stun lock system where you can manipulate enemies and attack them, but in this you'll often be attacking them and having to dodge, but they'll just attack you from out of nowhere. It doesn't feel quite fluent, and it means that for the majority of time, and I've seen other people comment the same thing, all you're doing is dodging. And for a game in which the fighting is not that fun, your dodge is so overpowered that you can pretty much just dodge through enemies and just get back to where you're trying to go to. Now you do unlock a gun, which adds a little element there, but taking damage doesn't feel like a learning point, just a frustrating continuation of the same thing that eventually, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to make a mistake. Now I'll talk about another thing that I haven't enjoyed about Mark of the Deep, and that's the visual design of the game. It is overly dark, and I understand that they're going for a pirate underworld kind of system in which you've got kind of that deathly haze, but I feel like there can be a lot more creativity in terms of the way they put things together, and having me continually having to bash on these boxes that give me nothing just to make my way through feels like a roadblock that doesn't need to be there. To be honest, it does feel like there's some design choices in this game that are just there to try and make the game longer, throwing a few extra enemies, a few extra boxes to hit through, when the really fun stuff is what I want to get to. And the really fun stuff so far has been the boss fights. The boss fights are pretty cool. The design of them look really great, and when I get there, I'm actually looking forward to it. Unfortunately, once again, the successful way to win these fights falls down to the exact same mechanic that I was using earlier. You can pretty much attack, dodge your way through everything. 2 attacks, 2 dodges, and then jump back in and repeat. In a good game of this style, when I'm fighting bosses, I want to feel like I need to be a little bit clever to learn the patterns, and like I need to come up with something new. I'm not getting that vibe at all with Mark of the Deep. It just feels like the same thing, rinse and repeat. Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say this game is bad yet. I'm sitting in that undecided, but I want to get some pretty interesting new mechanics quite quickly, a bit more story elements as well in the next hour or so of play, otherwise I think I'd be dropping it. Mark of the Deep has only just come out on Steam and released on the 25th of Jan. If you've had a go, it's sitting at mostly positive with reviews. Let me know what you think, and I'll keep looking for some other February releases of Metroidvanias to get me through in the meantime. If you've watched this far, subscribing, liking, leaving a comment is a way that you tell YouTube that this channel doesn't suck. I'd appreciate it. See you soon.